All right, let's talk Nebraska Cornhuskers. Obviously, Nebraska heading into their bye as they get ready for the home stretch. And Matt Rhule and company has quietly done an incredible job, not getting a lot of attention, but I think this is a great sign both for this season and for the future when it comes to Nebraska. We'll get into the details of that in just 1 second. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, this Nebraska football team, obviously led by Matt Rhule, not gone 100% perfect. Of course, dealing with the injuries to the quarterback. And I think there's a lot of good things in front of Nebraska right now. You Nebraska fans know this, of course. Chance to get to double-digit wins. Obviously, chance for a really good bowl game. Matt Rhule actually had some very interesting comments about a potential bowl game. We'll get to that in a little bit. But one of the things the Huskers really needed to do this season, and they've accomplished it to this point, is putting some of the ills, some of the problems that have plagued this program behind them, putting them in the rearview mirror. And I'm talking about close game, one-score game performance. Obviously, it's been a very obvious problem for anyone who's paid even the slightest attention to Nebraska football. They have failed to win those close games really the past, 3-4 years, really for a long time. It's been a huge problem for Nebraska. It has really destroyed some seasons where Nebraska, I felt, had some talent to maybe do some good things, but the inability to win those close games has really hurt them. But when you look at what Rhule and his staff and this team has done, it's really incredible in terms of turning that around. So let me pull up this graphic here to highlight exactly what I'm talking about. So this is Nebraska's close game performance. The wins are in red. The winning percentage is that blue line. So we have 2021 season, 22, 23, 24, and obviously the 2025 season. And these are the one-score games. So we're looking at close games, one-score games. That's how I graded it just to be consistent, right? And you can see, obviously, in 2021, no wins. 2022 got 2 wins, 23 1, 24 2. And this year already 4 wins in terms of one-score close game wins for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Big leap forward, of course. You can see the blue line is winning percentage. Winning percentage right now, of course, all the way up over 60. But prior to this year, it's been, well under 40% every single season, of course. Not good. Losing record in one-score games. Of course, the pinnacle of that was in 2021 where they went over and they lost a lot of one-score games and they didn't win any of them. That was disappointing. But really, 22 through 23, 24 were improved just by default, but they still were not good in those close games. And they've gotten better this year, significantly so. In fact, even if every game they play the rest of the season, their final 2 regular season games and a hypothetical bowl game, if they're all one-score games and they lose all of them, it still would be an improvement, right? And that speaks to, I think, what Matt Rhule and his staff have done in terms of solving that problem. And when it comes to working with a program and building a program, you almost have to take it year by year to solve a problem. You want to establish a baseline, recognize where you still need to improve, solve one problem, and then that's a new baseline, and then solve the next problem, that's a new baseline, and continue to stack and improve, right? The reality is you can go out with NIL and transfers and buy a great team 1 year, and then things can collapse. We've seen that with Colorado, for example, with Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter, with Coach Prime there. Obviously, they had a lot of talent, did some good things, but it's all falling apart, right? That's just the reality. We saw this from TCU a number of years ago. They had a magical run. They got obliterated. They've been nothing since. Not trying to pick on the Horned Frogs. That's just a fact, right? To build a long-term sustained program, you need to re-baseline, fix a problem, re-baseline, fix a problem, and it takes a long time to do that. And I think the biggest problem in terms of just performance from a macro level for Nebraska was winning these close games, winning these one-score games, and guys, they have done that, right? And obviously you can see right now, based on the way numbers currently sit, and no matter how the season goes, again, like I said a second ago, if they play 3 more one-score games and lose all of them, it still is an improvement. So I think you can say they've certainly improved, and I would argue fix the one-score debacle problem, and that includes defeats Michigan, defeats USC. So it hasn't been perfect. That's the other thing to remember, right? It's not like they've had a magical season where every one-score game, the ball just bounced their way. Funky things happened, and they came out on top. The exact opposite, right? Things didn't go their way against Michigan. Things didn't go their way. I mean, you can make an argument that Hail Mary was a bounce in their favor, but overall, I mean, it was a one-score loss. USC, same thing. Things didn't bounce their way, of course. Rhule injury comes to mind, of course, in terms of luck this season for Nebraska. But the reality is they've overcome it, and they found a way to win those close games. That's coaching, and that's talent, right? One of the things people lose sight of when you want a talenting, developing program, people talk about, well, you're going to win games 50-0 to star players. But part of talent is also building a deep, talented team, and the depth shows up in those close games. Who can be the third corner, the second defensive tackle, the backup running back, the third wide receiver to make a play? We've seen that emerge with Nebraska, and that's why they're performing better in that regard. And it's not just the one-score game performance that backs it up; it's actually the analytics. So I pulled up right here and created this chart right here, the FPI, the ESPN's Football Power Index per season for Nebraska, going back to 2022. And you can see they're getting better every single season. FPI looks at quality of team, it looks at the recruits, the transfers, and overall roster, and of course, in-game performance. And obviously, Nebraska winning more games this year, FPI is going to be up. But their overall talent level is actually pretty high as well. So in fact, Penn State, despite having a losing season, has a pretty high FPI because ESPN looks at the recruiting class and the transfers and says they got a lot of good players. They should be better than the record. So they weight them pretty highly on an FPI basis. Nebraska has a good mix of performance. Obviously, they've won a healthy amount of games, and overall talent. They're trending in the right direction in both regards, and all that compounds on itself. We talk about all the time. Good players want to play with good players. You win those close games. You win more games. Your performance gets better. Recruit better players. Players develop, and the cycle continues. And you just get better and better and better. And that's exactly where Nebraska is at right now. Now, look, they got a long way to go. Obviously, got football left to play this season, and we'll have to see what the future holds. But I think it's undeniable that Nebraska, under Matt Rhule, is trending in the right direction. And I really think a lot of people are, was this going to be the breakout year? And maybe they'll still get to 10 wins. We'll have to wait and see. Like I said, there's some games left to play. But I do think when you look at the data and you just look at where they are and where they've been, they are in such a much better spot, excuse me, than they've been in years past. And I think a lot of credit is due to Matt Rhule. But before we get into more reporting today with Nebraska, got some interesting comments from Matt Rhule. Want to hear from you Huskers fans in the comment section below. Give us your thoughts on all things Nebraska in terms of the trajectory of the team. Do you like where they're going? Are you excited and still enthused? Are you a little nervous? You're like, I don't know, don't feel so good. The things look better before the season. Are you really disappointed? Are you really bummed where things are? Give us your feelings, just your overall thoughts of the trajectory of this program. Let us know in the comment section below. But when it comes to the trajectory of any program, and Nebraska is no different, a lot of it comes down to the bowl game. Who are you going to play in the offseason? Get those extra practices, get that extra attention. And Matt Rhule, I think, has a perfect approach when it comes to that. I want to pull up this report here, courtesy of the Hastings Tribune. Nebraska's head coach Matt Rhule, speaking with the media Monday during the Huskers bye week, said his team will be grateful for any bowl destination it gets sent to this winter. He has a preference, however. Back-to-back bowl wins is not where we want to be, but it is better than where we were, Rhule said. To go play an SEC team in a premier bowl game and go back to Florida, we call it Flabraska. I love players from the state of Florida. They love the game, competing and flying around. The Big Ten's 2 Florida bowl games, Citrus and ReliaQuest, are the top selections after teams that get picked to compete in the college football playoff. Nebraska hasn't played in the Florida bowl game since 2014 against Georgia in the Gator Bowl, which no longer has a Big Ten tie-in. That's interesting. I forgot about that. The Huskers played back-to-back Citrus Bowls the previous 2 seasons against South Carolina and Georgia. The report goes on to say Nebraska's 7 wins may not be enough to get it to a tropical destination due to almost guaranteed large traveling fan bases that is enticing to all bowl game reps. Winning one more game at least against the Nittany Lions and or Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes, would secure a spot. While playing in the Citrus or ReliaQuest Bowl would put Nebraska in a primetime spot against a recognizable brand, maybe the likes of Oklahoma and Texas, it would come with other advantages too, specifically in recruiting. Florida is a fertile ground for college football prospects, a well that the Huskers have been tapping into more often in recent classes. Nebraska currently has 6 players from the state of Florida on its roster, including star wideout Ja'Cory Barney and linebacker Vincent Shavers, Amari Sanders, Willis McGahee IV, Larry Tarver, and Cortell Mills also are from the Sunshine State. I went to high school in Florida, so I've got some bias. I think the state of Florida is the best when it comes to high school football. A lot of you guys probably disagree with me, but that's fine because I know better. I'm just kidding, of course. There's a lot of great states out there. Florida is one of the best, though, just statistically, for sure. But listen, I think this is a great strategy and great approach by Matt Rhule. One of the things we don't see from coaches, at least publicly, is targeting certain bowl games, targeting certain matchups. And one of the things I've always been frustrated about, whether it's a Big Ten team or a Big 12 team or whatever, you want to attack an SEC team in SEC country. Because the overall expectations and the culture, or just call it, just arrogance or whatever, is that an SEC team is going to play a Big Ten team and beat them by 40, right? It comes from a bygone era of, the early Nick Saban and Urban Meyer at Florida, right? It's just the vibe that was going around for so long. It's not the case anymore. Of course, Ohio State, Michigan, their success on the national level have proven a lot of people to be wrong-headed with that approach. But the reality is that's still the vibe. That's still the feeling and expectation. So if you go down to the Southeast where you can recruit well, you get a lot of attention, a lot of publicity, and then you play well against an SEC school, then you're going to look great. Because everyone's just going to naturally feel, again, because of their arrogance and bias, that SEC teams should just win by a blowout. But if you go out there and play it, you don't have to win. If you play it close and play a good game, recruits, guys in the area will be like, Nebraska, took Texas, the distance. I tell you what, maybe maybe we should go to Nebraska. They're a team on the up and up. If they took Texas, the distance, whether that's a good thing or not, right? I mean, I think that's up for debate. But that's just the culture. That's just the vibe down in the Southeast. Matt Rhule, for targeting that, is very smart. We'll have to see, of course, how the wins and losses shake out. But the fact that he's public about it, I wouldn't be surprised if these bull reps really like that idea. They like the attention. They like the buzz. Someone saying, hey, listen, we want to go play in this bowl, that place, or this place. I think there's some of these bull reps, these invites. Will be very interested to see potentially what Matt Rhule and this Nebraska team does accomplishes down the stretch. And if they qualify and get enough wins, look good enough, I expect them to get one of these bowl spots. I really do. Because this Huskers team, they got a little buzz, they got a little juice, got a little energy. Again, the first step in persuasion, the first step in sales, which is what recruiting is attention. Matt Rhule right now, he's garnering it. I think he will continue to develop it if they get some good wins down the stretch, hopefully 2, but ideally at least 1, get to 8, maybe 9, and roll into a bowl game potentially to get a lot more attention and get some great recruiting going on. And this is all part of Matt Rhule's strategy, guys. He's a smart coach. He executes things not for the here and now. He's trying to win for the here and now, of course, but he has a multi-layered, medium and long-term approach, and that's why we're seeing better performance. We're seeing the FPI perform and improve for Nebraska. We're seeing the close game problem drastically improved. You could arguably be solved at this point. We'll see how the rest of the year shakes out. It's all part of Rhule's strategy. It's an incredible job by him, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for this program.